Today we're talking to Alan Bradbury, Senior Underwriter at ERS, the specialist motor insurers, who have noticed a marked increase in the number of classic electric vehicle conversions. Now, as a car enthusiast, Alan has his own opinions about converting classic cars, both for and against. And that's what we're going to find out about. But Alan, can we start with you explaining what your role is and what you do at ERS?
Okay, well Robert, I'm Alan Bradbury, I'm a Senior Underwriter at ERS. ERS is a Lloyd's A+ rated insurer. We specialise in pretty much any sort of specialist motor products, ranging from classic cars, motorhomes, modified cars. The team I represent is an enthusiast team, so we look after those products I just mentioned. And we're really sort of keen to sort of grow the specialist areas such as electric vehicle conversions, and obviously that applies to the more modern vehicles as well as the classic vehicles.
So you're now seeing a kind of increase in the number of classic cars being converted, like this Triumph Stag?
We are actually, yeah. The electric vehicle market's obviously huge. The retail market's seen the biggest increase, but people are now looking more towards other types of vehicles, such as classics. We're seeing a mix of range from the lower end of the market, the entry-level electric vehicle conversions, such as the Mini, the Fiat 500s, all the way up to the higher end, the Ferraris, Jaguar E-Types, for example. But there's also a good mix of modern classic vehicles which are perhaps not ready to be converted to electrics yet. So, for example, vehicles from the last 20 years, people are buying those now for investments and actually maybe keeping those for possibly converting to electric in the future.
So we know that there are regulations that are coming in about 8 years' time regarding, the end of sales of combustion engine cars. It's going to be a big impact. I mean, how do you see that affecting the classic car market of all types of drives?
Yeah, I think the classic car market will still remain buoyant for many, many years to come yet. But I think for now, classic cars, modern classics, will sort of there'll be a blend of both EVs and traditional combustion engine vehicles. There's also a lot of cars that are being released at the moment, or certainly in the last 10 years, which people are buying to keep as almost like a memento of the end of the combustion engine. For example, the Mercedes C63, the Audi RS4, for example, sort of big V8 engines. Now, it could be a while before those are converted. Personally, I would want to keep those as long as possible, rather than go straight over to the electric converted. But at the end of the day, these are car enthusiasts. They're buying these cars because they enjoy the cars, they enjoy the sounds, the smell. So I think you're going to have a long time. The cars that are bought now are going to be classic cars in the future.
So do you think the new electric ruling will be for the better?
I think it will be overall. It will make the planet greener ultimately. People will be driving around in a lot more fuel efficient and cleaner cars. In terms of classic cars, classic cars have always been not most sort of environmentally friendly vehicles, but I think with the shift now towards conversions and getting those classic cars converted, it will be for the better long term. That said, there's a loyal following of the internal combustion engine, and that will remain so for many years to come. Whether future governments sort of change or force their hand to move more to electric is a different thing. But I think with the examples that we've seen, certainly with the range or the vast range of cars that we've seen, for example, Fiat 500s, there's some Alfa Romeos that have been converted. It's going to be a long time, I think, before we see a huge sort of shift over towards classic electrically converted vehicles. We've seen a few examples more recently. We insured a Ferrari that had been converted to electric, a Morris Minor even, which was quite interesting. And even recently we've dabbled in the electric motorsport industry. We insured a couple of Extreme E cars, which is the new motorsport class which has come out. Again, that's a first for us and an example of how diverse the range of cars that we insure on an electric basis. Yeah.
And do you think that converting a classic car is essentially a rich person's pursuit? It's still a pretty expensive process to go through, particularly if you've got a car that already has a fairly high value.
It is at the moment. It's extremely expensive. However, that said, it depends, what your budget is, and there's something for everyone out there at the moment. I think one of the problems we've got there's a limited choice of electric conversions out there. There's a lot of companies, and there's going to be even more in the future that are coming out. But technology is improving. We're getting a lot more battery options, electric motor options are improving all the time, and I think we're seeing a mix and a sort of more diverse sort of option for clients to sort of buy or convert their classics really. Regardless of the sort of level that they come in, I think we're well placed in the market to sort of insure those right from the top end right the way down to the entry level.
So Alan, what are the kind of key advantages of converting a classic car to electric?
Well, the environmental aspect is the biggest thing, obviously. Some of the traditional classic cars are not particularly environmentally friendly, so there's certainly a greener solution there. I think it's also important to say that it gives them a new lease of life as well. Some of these classic cars are 30, 40 plus years old. The engines are a bit tired now, so effectively an electric conversion will give them a new lease of life. Financially, it's going to cost a lot of money to do that, but I think there are benefits long term as well. Road tax, cost of charging is massive. Obviously, sourcing and cost of engine parts can be quite high on classics as well. But one of the other things is exclusivity. Not many people have this, so you'll go to a classic car show and see hundreds of classic cars, but you will rarely see an electric classic car. So it's a very elite club at the moment.
Right. But then, what do you see as the flip side of that? The kind of disadvantages of doing it?
Disadvantages are, obviously, for me, classic car is about the smell, the feel of the car, the noise. An electric car doesn't give you those same sort of sensory effect really. The cost is probably the biggest thing. The cost of conversion, it can range. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands for it, but if you're converting a Jaguar E-Type, for example, that could cost a lot more than say converting a Mini or a Fiat 500. There's the charging infrastructure, obviously, as you know, that's still being worked on. That's still got a long way to go, I think, nationally. And obviously technology as well, in terms of people living in terraced houses, for example, and being able to charge cars. There's going to be a lot of changes to that as well. But I think it's a balance of, there's a lot of pitfalls, but there are a lot of advantages as well.
So tell us more about what ERS do in this area. How does the business set itself apart?
Well, the main thing is that we're a specialist insurer. We're Lloyd's A+ rated, and we're here to support our broker network to help ensure the transition to electric vehicles, whether that be in the retail space or whether it be on the enthusiast space for classic cars, for example. We have a dedicated team both in two sites at Swansea and London from an underwriting and claim side. And we're just really well placed in the market. We've got a huge appetite for doing these types of vehicles. The rating approach is almost the same as classic cars. A lot of these classic cars are electrically converted. Although they're higher value, we'll actually almost insure them in the same way as a traditional engine classic car. Some of the benefits that we've got will really appeal to not just traditional classic car owners, but EV classic owners as well. For example, salvage retention, that's a really big one. So in the event of a total loss, they can retain the salvage and either have the parts transferred to another vehicle or rebuild the vehicle. There's also cover for spare parts. So if the vehicle has got a number of spare parts attached to it or in the garage, they can be covered under the policy as well. We've also got a really good motor breakdown product as well, which is really important because obviously in the event of a car, or electric car, breaking down or running out of charge, we'll make sure they get back on the road or get to where they need to go to. I think that the main thing is we've got a really good underwriting team, really knowledgeable. We're experts in all enthusiast vehicles, and the claims team as well. Should the worst ever happen, you can be assured that we're supporting our brokers and our clients, making sure that they're put back to where they were before.
Well, thanks very much, Alan. It was great to get a better understanding of this developing market. Now, I'm going to ask this question. I know you're expecting it, but if push came to shove, which of the classic EV conversions would you pick?
It'll have to be one of the sort of entry-level classics. And before today, it would have been something like a Fiat 500 or a Mini. But having seen the Stag behind me, which is a piece of work, it's great. It's retained things like the gearbox, the smell inside is brilliant. So it's going to have to be the Stag, yeah.